Hi, I'm John Alden for DIYphotography.net, and today we're going to take a look at the Zhiyun Crane 2. So this is the Zhiyun Crane 2, not to be confused with the Crane V2, which is a completely different gimbal. This one was sent to us by the folks at GearBest for us to play with and check out and see what we think. So there's links in the description below if you want to check that out. So what's so special about the Crane 2? Well, for a start, there's a load capacity. This thing handles up to 3.2 kilos or around 7 pounds, which means it'll take just about any rig that will physically fit on here, even if it's inside a cage. There's also USB connectivity with Canon, Sony and Panasonic cameras through USB cables that will allow you to control exposure, start and stop recording, turn live view on and off, and with Canon you also get follow focus with the wheel on the side. But we'll get back to that a bit later. So it's powered by three 18650 batteries, which Zhiyun says offers 12 to 18 hours of use. I cannot attest to this whole duration, but I was using it in London a couple of weeks ago at a trade show, and I used it for a good 3 or 4 hours and the battery indicator never came off full. There's an OLED display on the front of the handle, which is a very nice touch and very useful. It shows exposure information with compatible cameras, and it also shows you what mode the gimbal itself is in. So no longer do you have to randomly hit the buttons to try and figure out whether you're in pan follow or lock focus or whatever mode. And underneath there is a 1/4 20-inch tripod socket, so you can stick it on a monopod, regular tripod, slider, or you can use the supplied tabletop tripod that comes with it. So with that basic introduction, now we're going to go ahead and set the camera up. Now normally I've been using this with a Nikon D800, which means I get no connectivity whatsoever. But as the camera that's currently recording this is the D800, I'm going to put my little D5300 on here. So the first thing to do is attach the plate, and you're going to want to have a coin handy because underneath there's a little slot that's just big enough for most currencies. This is a Manfrotto video compatible plate, which means that you can go straight from the gimbal to a tripod or a slider or whatever else you happen to use. One of the things you want to take into account before you start trying to balance this and attach this is exactly how you're going to set the camera up. If you've got a flip out LCD like I have here, if you balance it with the LCD in and then you pull the LCD out to film, it's going to be off balance and it's going to tip that way. If you've got a zoom lens that locks in very close and then you decide to open it, you're going to tip more weight forward. So decide how you want everything set up while filming and balance it while the camera's set in that configuration. So we don't want it to tip backwards or forwards. We'll lock that off. The next thing to do is to point it straight down and adjust this one on the side. So the tripod plate and this one we're doing now adjust the pitch, and we want it to not tip forwards or backwards. And now in theory we should be able to set this up at any angle and it'll just hold. Now we're going to balance the roll, which is the left and right, and now we've got it. And finally we're going to change the yaw. We pull this out until that is no longer rotating in either direction. When you first get this, you're not going to be able to balance it right away. It's going to take some practice. I've got the process down now to about a minute, depending on which camera I'm using. This one balances really well, really quickly. The D800 takes a little more work just because it's a heavier camera, but this balances fine. And once it is balanced, you can set it up at any angle, let it go, and it's not going to move. It's just going to stay exactly where you leave it. So with that set, we're going to turn it on, and that's it, we're balanced. So this is where now, if you're shooting Canon, Sony or Panasonic, you hook up the appropriate USB cable from the Crane to the camera, and then you can control the exposure, start and stop recording, turn live view on and off, and if you shoot Canon, you can use the follow focus wheel. I have tried this with the Canon 5D Mark III and 5D Mark IV, and it works absolutely beautifully. As I'm shooting Nikon, I have no control whatsoever. I can't even turn live view on and off. I can't start and stop recording. Nothing, but that's the limitation of Nikon cameras and the way their USB protocol works. Obviously, there's no follow focus support for Nikon, but there's also none for Sony or Panasonic either. But Zhiyun have just recently announced a new mechanical follow focus unit that attaches onto the gimbal head to give you follow focus with other brands as well as manual focus lenses. So one thing you do have to remember about this, And it's probably the reason you're going to get one of these is that it takes a whole lot of weight. It'll take up to 7 pounds or 3.2 kilograms. The thing itself weighs a little over a kilogram. So when you're holding it up and using it and shooting it all day, it gets really heavy really quick. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to be using all day non-stop without your arms getting tired or hurting. You're either going to be constantly swapping hands, or you're going to need to be putting it down regularly, or you can go with a double handle grip that wraps around the main handle, and that makes it a lot easier to deal with it for a longer period of time. It helps you get more stabilization because you can lock your arms in. One thing I haven't spoken much about is the mobile app that comes for the Crane. At the moment, it seems to be having a few issues between various firmware updates and app updates. Things work, things break, then we've got to wait for an update and it works again, and then another update, it breaks again. So I haven't messed much with it, but it will allow you to get some degree, in theory, it will allow you to get some degree of remote control, and I really hope they get that working perfectly soon. Suffice to say, both the Android and iOS apps for the Zhiyun Crane 2 need a little bit of work, and so does the firmware. But as the app and the firmware gets updated, I'll keep playing with it. Maybe I'll do a follow-up post or video in the future as things start to really come together. But for now, even without the USB connectivity, without full app compatibility, this gimbal is absolutely fantastic. I'm probably going to be using this on just about every shoot I do from now on. All the time out today, it's been perfect. It's kept up just fine with everything I've thrown at it. It was great when I was at the BET show in London a couple of weeks ago, either handheld, working off a monopod, even with a big heavy D800 and a 28 to 70 f2.8 lens on it. It was fine, no problem whatsoever. The battery life's fantastic. It's just a nice, rock solid, steady gimbal. And at this price point, I really don't think there's anything on the market that beats it for this kind of performance and this kind of capacity. So thank you again to GearBest for sending this over for us to check out. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and also check DIYphotography.net for the full post with some extra pictures and information on the Crane 2 gimbal. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
If you like some more cool movies, you can check out this one, and you can subscribe to us down here.